You're asking questions about show business, but I think the writing, directing, producing is easy. It's the mental. It's the mental. How do you stay grounded when
Have you ever wondered what it takes to make your very own movie? Well, today you are in for a treat because I am interviewing Mr. Robert Townsend, the man who started funding his own movies with his very own credit cards. He didn't wait for anybody else. He just did it on his own and created quite a stir. If this is your first time here, my name is Lydia Nicole, and this is Acting Smarter Now. There's so much I want to unpack, but first I want to talk about your beginnings. You're growing up in Chicago and then coming to New York. And I want to start from Chicago, where you got your first mentor in the business.
first, let me say thank you for having me on your show. And thank you for such an amazing introduction. I'm like all full, we've known each other, worked together for a trillion years, but thank you, and I'm proud of you and your accomplishments with your show.
Wait a minute. Did you see my silver button? My silver button?
Yes, yes, I did, Lydia Nicole. Yes, I did. Let me dive in. Okay, so in Chicago, my journey, started when I was a little kid watching television and loving TV and wanting to entertain myself through hard times. And I started performing and as a little kid. And the bug started when I was 10 years old. And that teacher that I talk about in the one man show, Mr. Reed, was the first one to see potential in a little Robert Townsend. And I talk about winning my first award as a kid in 1968. So you got to understand that during that time, civil rights movement, Martin Luther King gets killed. There's so much going on. And then there's this little boy with a light in his eyes toward entertainment. So it started there. And then I found my way at 14. I started at John Robert Powers Modeling School because I told my mother I wanted to be an actor. And so it started there. And then she got me acting lessons there. And then I went and saw an audition to X-Bag. And when you asked about my first mentor at X-Bag, my first director was Mr. Paymoon Rami. And Mr. Rami became my mentor, and he is the one who poured so much life into me. He's a writer, a director, a producer. He does it all. And so I think when you see somebody that's doing what you want to do, I didn't know I was modeling him, that, hey, I want to do what he does. But he infected me with endless possibilities of things that could be done with no money, with a group of friends that work hard, and anything and everything is possible. So it started in Chicago with Mr. Paymoon Rami.
Then you go find your way to New York. And I love this piece of your life. You find your way to New York. You end up going to a school in New Jersey for college because you had a bad experience with a teacher in Illinois. And now you're in New York and you are just going for what you want. The thing that I kept thinking about was you having an apartment, you being friends with Keenan, Ivory, Wayans, and Damon Wayans, and bringing everybody to your house to do improvs.
Yes. So let me share. When I got to New York, it's like everybody else. We're struggling, trying to figure it out. And then I started doing a lot of TV commercials and I started making money doing TV commercials. And I've always thought like an entrepreneur. So when I started making money, the first thing I did was to invest back in me. I went to the Sony store and bought a digital camera, an industrial video camera like they use for auditions. And it cost me like $3,400 in 1979. And so basically, I wanted to increase my capability of auditions and being the best that I can. And so I think I started the original self-tape because everybody would come in. I started the self-tape in 1979. I had a camera. I had a painter's cloth in my bedroom. I lived in Woodside, Queens. And I didn't think I was a director then. I was just like, we should get together and work on our craft. And I was so committed to it that it was me, it was Keenan, Reggie Vale Johnson, Melvin George, Angela Scott, and we were in an improv group called the Kitchen Table. And that's kind of where, we were just on in a camera. And then Keenan goes one day, he goes, and Keenan's a part of it, and we're just doing improv, and we would do it at my house, and we would do sketches. And then Keenan goes, my brother, Damon, works at this deli, and he's really funny. And I've always been really serious about the craft. So I was like, is he a comedian? Does he write? Where does he work out? And then Keenan was like, no, Rob, he's really funny. I was like, man, if he ain't serious, don't bring him to my house. And then he goes, please bring, he says, can he come? Can he come? I said, okay, bring him if he's not a comedian, but I don't waste my time. I was serious back then. And so Damon shows up at my house in Woodside, Queens, and he's like this little skinny dude, and he's got a leathered hat like those Jamaicans wear, the stuff with paper and everything. And so we start doing our jam sessions with the improv, and then Damon starts, he goes, can I come in? And then Damon does character after character after character after character, and it's all the characters that you would see eventually on In Living Color. And I look at Keenan and I go, oh my God, he has the gift. He says, I told you, Rob, I told you. I said, well, what is he doing with it? And I was blown away because it made me insecure because he did so many characters. I was like, well, I do about 50. He was doing about 80. I was like, oh God, oh God. And then what happened was it was a moment for me because I saw his gift. And then Keenan said when they went home and got on the subway, Damon was like, man, that felt so good to me. Like I think I really want to be in show business. And then now that I'm working on Damon's show, Papa's House, directing him, we, on the set, I've done 5 shows now. On the set, sometimes we talk, and he goes, "Man, that day at your house, that was the day that woke me up." So when I think about my career and like having a full circle moment with Damon right now, he was really born as an artist in my house. He really was, like that was the day that he had never performed. And then when he saw how easy and how much fun we were having, he never came back because he was working at the deli and he, I don't know if he had fears of like really attacking it. And then eventually he got to it.
You're in New York. Well, actually, you started in Chicago doing extra work. You come to New York, you're doing extra work, you are enrolling in classes, you have people in your house doing improv jam sessions. You do a film called The Warriors that
Yes.
changes your life, or one part of it that changes your life. Tell us about The Warriors.
This is a story that's in my one man show, and I'll just share a little bit because it was on the set of The Warriors that I started to learn about directing. For those that do not know what The Warriors, the movie is about, like Lin-Manuel now is doing an album and it's about, based on The Warriors. So The Warriors was a movie that was done in 1978. It was directed by Walter Hill. It's about a gang summit that happens in New York City, and all the gangs are coming together to create peace. And I'm in the riffs. The leader of our gang is the one who's making this speech about peace. And then somebody shoots him. And when they shoot him, then all the gangs are mad and they go, "Who did it?" And somebody says, "The Warriors did it." And the Warriors have this journey to try to get to Coney Island, and every gang in Manhattan is trying to kill him. And so anyway, they had there was 100 of us. There was 700 of us out there. 100 were real actors, and then the rest were gang members. And the prop department handed out chains and sticks and bottles. And anyway, the real gangbangers, when they said action, they started using the weapons, hitting people, and people were getting hurt. And the body fell right over there. And I was like, I'm not going to get hurt. I'm not going to run all night because we were supposed to run and be crazy and all that. I said, I'll be the one soldier that will protect the body. And they A camera, B camera, they started rolling, and I wasn't going to run. I ran to the body, and I get to the body, and then I stay near the body, and then I hear over the speaker, "The guy near the body, stay near the body." And I was like, yeah. And then after they cut, the director, first AD, came over and said, "The director loved what you did. You're going to get upgraded. You're going to make more money. What's your name?" I said, "Robert Townsend." And then in that moment, when we took a break for 20 minutes, and when I came back, they had reblocked the scene for that one moment around me. And I was like, oh wow, I affected all these cameras and people and extras and props. My little butt affected the scene. And then after that, it kind of planted a seed about being a director, but it made me want to understand how I could, as an extra, infuse myself into the scene and get upgraded to a special bid or one line. And I did it again. That was my routine then, because then I did a movie called Fast Break with Gabe Kaplan, that was on Welcome Back Carter, for those of you that are not familiar. And basically, there's a scene where we're supposed to play basketball. And after the Warriors, every time I went on set, I was like, how can I get upgraded? How can I get upgraded? And so when we were doing a fast break, there's a scene, they wanted to know if I could play basketball. And so we were playing basketball, but I started thinking like a director. I was like, Gabe, so I said to the first AD, I said, what are we shooting today? What's going on? He goes, well, Gabe Kaplan's going to be down here playing 3-on-3, and then other guys are going to be down here shooting, and we just want guys shooting around. So I waited. The other brothers was really excited to play basketball, and they were shooting it, and I was waiting for Gabe to come out of his trailer. And when he came out of his trailer, man, he walked on the court, and I knew it was going to be basketball. So I go, I got Gabe. I'm shutting Gabe down. And the director was like, this is good. This is good. Yeah, yeah, yeah. He's going to guard Gabe. Yeah, yeah. I said, yeah, come on, man. Bring your game. And they upgraded me. What's your name? Robert Townsend. And they upgraded me. And then when you watch the movie at the beginning credits, I'm guarding Gabe Kaplan. And then you see me like making my shot and making faces and everything. But that muscle as a young actor, hungry to get upgraded to make money, but also that young director, like you talked about being a hyphen, the hyphen was being born behind the scenes as this little extra.
So you do Warriors, then you do Fast Break, then you hit a wall where you had no money. You had no money. So you had a conversation with your mother that shifted you again.
Show business is up and down. There was a lot of work. What was her name? Sylvia Fay was the casting director. And we would get a lot of work, and then all of a sudden they weren't making as many movies. And then I was doing temp jobs back then. I did a lot of temp work, because then you got a temp job, you make some money, and then you can go to auditions and you can do whatever. I was a bank teller. I worked. I can't even really count, but I was there, and I was, I hope they didn't check my register a lot, because I was 3,800, okay, 15, and so anyway, I was a ticket manager for the Cosmos, the soccer team. And so all of a sudden, everything just, there wasn't any extra work coming in. There was no jobs. And I called my mother, and I talk about this in the show. It was the day I wanted to give up, and I called her and said, hey, Ma, it's not working. There was a teacher at Illinois State that said, you don't have what it takes to make it. And I was like, her words, like when people say negative stuff, they can live rent free in your head. And her voice was living rent free in my head. And because when an adult, I'm a kid in college, when an adult says, you don't have it, you're not going to make it, you can't. And I was like, oh, she knows. And then I thought about it, and I was like, she don't really know me, and she don't know what's in me. So I had the conversation with my mother, and my faith has always been strong, but sometimes you get a little wobbly because you forget to go to church, you forget to pray. And my mother, I was like, and we're hard-headed when you're so young. You're young, you're dumb, you're stupid, you're hard-headed. My mother was like, baby, did you go to church? And I'm all arrogant. Mama, you don't understand. You don't understand how show business work, Mama, how show business work. And my mother came back and she says, baby, you don't know how God works. And so that Sunday, I go to church, and you got to come and see the show to see the end of the story. But the minister changes my life. He changes Dr. Eric Butterworth, his sermon, and I do the sermon in the show. He changed my life. And that sermon stays with me to this day. And so sometimes, My mother, she was in Chicago, I was in New York, going through it. And just by going to church that Sunday, my entire life turned around. In the show, but it's just who I am. It is a walk with God. It is faith. It is faith. Because sometimes people go like, well, how do you keep going? What is the key to your longevity? And how, and it's like, I love what I do. I pray in the morning. I pray at night. I walk in gratitude. I am blessed to live the life that I live. And I think sometimes a lot of people in show business lose sight of the gift we've been given to be artists. I love being an artist. There's nothing else I would want to do. I don't work. Like when people say, "Do you work?" It's like, well, like I'm getting ready to shoot, like I did the season finale to Force, and I'm doing the season finale to Papa's House, and I'm directing or producing, right? And none of it's work. It's just fun. I'm a professor. I go in and talk about movies all day. I'm a tenured professor at USC, and I just go in and we talk about movies. And okay, what did you think of Scorsese's movie? What do you think of Marlon Brando? What do you? Oh, no, 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 no. I think Ryan Coogler, that one shot, and so dreams do come true. So for me, that one conversation with my mom to go to church, and Dr. Butterworth that I talk about in the show changed my life. So you're asking questions about show business, but I think the writing, directing, producing is easy. It's the mental. It's the
Mhm.
mental. How do you stay grounded when, like it says in the Bible, we walk by faith and not by sight? So do you look at what you see and go, huh, I have no unemployment. I can't pay my bills. Oh my God, there's no work. And if you light that fire underneath, and all of a sudden it's like, hey, there's no work, but there's a job here for Robert Townsend. Hey, Robert, no, they want you. They want me. Yeah, they want you. So my faith is really strong because I really know that that's gotten me through everything in my life.
I'm going to add to that. Your mindset is strong. Your self talk is strong. Your faith is strong, but your works are stronger. Because if you don't have all four of those together, you can have faith, but be foolish.
Yes, yes, yes.
How many actors do we know who who are really really exceptional, but they're waiting. They're just waiting. They're not being proactive. They're not taking what God has given them and saying, okay, he gave me this, I'm gonna do this. You have always, the thing about you is you have never stopped working. I don't think that's an accident. I don't think that's a coincidence. I think that has to do with your character and your work ethic. You have always worked. I mean, in the last 20, almost 25 years that we have worked together, we have never had a holiday. Never. I have to fight for, I gotta take a day off.
What's interesting is that I've always been driven. I really have. Thank you for, acknowledging that. When I think about Hollywood Shuffle, I've never been one to complain. There's so many people in Hollywood that they just complain about, how wrong it is in the studios and the parts, and for me, it's never about complaining. It's about take action. Like now with this new generation of filmmakers, the only thing that is going to stop them is fear. Because now you can shoot a movie with a digital camera. You can shoot it with your iPhone. You can edit on your computer. Back in the dark ages when we were doing Hollywood Shuffle, you had to shoot with 35 millimeter film, and you had to process the film, and you had to edit on an 8 plate, and you had to process the film, and that cost, and you buy the film, and da 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 da. Now, the good news is everyone has a camera now. The bad news is everyone has a camera now. And to me, it's all about quality control, because Hollywood Shuffle was a success because Keenan and I still sharpen steel. As we were writing, as we were creating, we were like, the funniest joke, the funniest beat, the funniest people, and we checked our egos. We were like, let's just make something special. And I think now a lot of the new creatives in Hollywood, they don't take the time to double check and make sure it is the funniest joke and it is well casted. Like when you look at who was in Hollywood Shuffle, you got John Weatherspoon, you got young Damon Wayans, you got Keenan Ivory Wayans, you got Anne-Marie Johnson, all these people eventually, Rusty Cundiff, who would do the Chappelle show, and all of these people came out of there. But I think it was about quality control. Like when I watched the documentary on Motown and they talked about quality control, where they would vote on the record and is that record a hit? Is that record not a hit? And what can make it better? And I think if new creatives in Hollywood found their tribe that was honest with them, the work would be on a higher level. You know what I mean? I think everything that we have created and people, the documentary on the five heartbeats, it's just figuring it out. And then to be nominated for an NAACP Image Award. So for me, my work ethic is that I am committed to people of color. I want to create positive images. I'm never going to complain. I'm never going to say, oh, well, they don't. Yes, we have not stopped working ever. Doing Diary of a Single Mom, working on that. In the Hive with Loretta Devine and Michael Clark Duncan's last movie, one of the films that I am so, so, so proud.
And I just want to say, Vivica A. Fox should have won awards for that movie because she was so brilliant in that movie, and she's never gotten her due, and that movie was the movie where she left everything on the table. She was brilliant. I mean, the movie is fantastic, but to me, Vivica was she was the star of that movie because she came with everything she had. She was so raw. You believed her. I she's my hero because of that film. She crushed it. That film I'm so proud of. You did such an excellent job. I want to go back to talking about when you did Hollywood Shuffle. I think it's important for young filmmakers, young actors, young writers to understand that you got to be scrappy. What made you, Robert Townsend and Keenan and myself and all of us, was that we were scrappy. We were not taking no for an answer. We were just, okay, let's do it. You're going to do it? Do it. I mean, and you were the scrappiest of everybody because no matter what everybody was saying, you were like, let's go. We're taking the mountain. And because of that, you actually climbed Kilimanjaro because that's your character. That's who you are in life. You are, I can do it. I can do it. And there's something to be said about hanging out with people who sharpen you. You are the one that sharpens everybody. So it is important for you to be grounded in God because everybody comes to you to get sharpened. You have Keenan, and Keenan is fabulous, but you're the one pushing the cart. You're the one, come on, let's go, let's go. You're like, so what? We'll do it. I don't care. We'll do it. And what I remember back in those days, and I was trying to jog my memory, but for some reason, I remember storyboards for what would become Scary Movie before Hollywood Shuffle got done. Am I right in that order, or was it, or because I
No,
remember storyboards in an office that you and Keenan were writing in.
no, there was a movie called Another Kind of Horror, and that was a film that that was the first film Keenan and I wrote, and that was when we had a company called Break Boy Productions, and it was about a basketball team that their bus breaks down and they end up at a haunted house or something like that. But that was the first one that we wrote, and there might have been some storyboards. That wasn't Scary Movie. That was another kind.
I know it wasn't a scary movie, but I remember that being like the catalyst almost to a scary movie. It was like, I just
Yeah.
remember those storyboards. You have always been, what can I do? What can get done? Oh, let's do this, let's do that. And you have always been good about investing your money in your business. I think that's something that young people also have to know. It's being scrappy, it's not letting your ego get in the way, but going for what you want, because that is who you are. You talk about affecting the scene in Warriors, and as I was thinking about that, you have affected Hollywood. You, one singular person. I get into arguments sometimes with people about when they say, well, I'm just one person. You are just one person, Robert Townsend. When the DGA recently gave you a tribute, to hear all these people coming up to the stage, Robert Townsend, it was because of Robert Townsend. What you don't know is that you were created for a time such as this. God put you and gave you these qualities because he knew that when people saw you, then they were like, well, if he did it, I could do it. By you seeing Pei Moon and absorbing everything he did, those were seeds planted in you. And even though it took a few years, I think of the fact that you were doing extra work for 7 years before things really started popping for you. Hollywood Shuffle took 2.5 years to make. Even though it was done in 12 days, it took 2.5 years to make. People think that success comes overnight, but you had been constant and consistent. You have been determined. You have been tenacious. You have
Thank
been
you.
a beast in a good way. In a good way. The Bible talks about iron sharpening iron. And
Yes.
so you and Keenan sharpened each other's iron, but you sharpened all the, and Keenan did too in his own way with In Living Color. But you have affected Hollywood, not just in the Black community, because of you and Keenan doing Hollywood Shuffle. Robert Rodriguez said, I could do that.
Mm,
Robert
mm.
Rodriguez said, I could do that. And I'm not saying anything that's not true, because he actually came to you guys at the Austin Film Festival and said, I'm here because of you. And so to hear all these people at the DGA who were able to make it, to come and say, Robert did this, Robert affected me, Robert affected me. So I just wanted to share that, and something that people don't, not many people know, but you for 4 years ran a TV network.
Yes.
Is you
Yeah.
crazy? No. And with no budget. That's that you were a, you are resilient, you are tenacious, you are determined, and you are resourceful. I want to talk about the Black Family Channel, because that is something that is not really publicized. You can't find a lot of press on it, but you really did an extraordinary job running that network without $2.
Well, let me say this. The Black Family Channel. A lot of people are not aware, but I went to Atlanta, and well, how it started was that there was this gentleman. They recently made a movie about his life with Jamie Foxx called The Burial, and his name is Willie Gary. And I was doing an interview, and for this network, I forgot. And then somebody says, I said, it's a Black network, and I was like, and it's owned by Willie Gary. And Willie was interviewing me, and I was like, you have a network? And he was like, yeah, it's in Atlanta, and da 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 da. And BET had just sold for like $5 billion or whatever. And so I'm like, as an entrepreneur, I'm like, wait a minute, I could create a network. I could develop content. I never had my own. And then Willie was like, um, you would be interested in running a network? And I was like, yeah. And not that I wanted to leave Hollywood or go like, I'm done with Hollywood. I was like, I'm excited about the possibilities of growing something. I like creating. I like, and wherever I'm creating, I'm happy. So it's not like, well, it's not NBC, it's not CBS, it's not Netflix. I was like, could we grow a network, and this network, grows into something really big, and how many images? And so I'll tell you this story of the journey, and the journey. But when I took the network over, they didn't have a lot of money. They didn't have, they had zero money, and they were like, "What can you do with this?" But coming from the school of Hollywood Shuffle, I know little things can become big things. We had a sound stage, and we had equipment, and we had buildings, and then this is where my motto, and my mantra in life is there's always another way. That is the mantra. There's always another way. So when I got to Atlanta and people found out, Robert Townsend is going to be running the Black Family Channel. He's going to be running this network, blah, 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 Robert Townsend. And so everywhere I drove around Atlanta, people would see me and they would go, I'm a writer, I'm a director, I'm a producer, Robert, da, 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 da. And they would give me resumes or packets and all of that. And then other people would just drop it off at the building because they knew where our building was. And at one point, we had close to 350 pieces of scripts and headshots and da 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 da. And, God whispers in my ear, he always whispers in my ear. And so everybody in the office was like, Robert, we never got this much attention because you're here. We get all this attention. What do we do? How do we do? And then the light bulb went off in my brain, and I was like, call them all to the soundstage. Call everybody that's dropped the material off. I can't read all these scripts. I can't watch all these reels. Call them all, get them to the soundstage. And so everybody was like, well, we ain't got no money. What, Robert, how we going to do? And I just call them to the soundstage. And, like I said, by that time, God had whispered in my ear. So that Thursday evening, I invited all these creatives to come to our soundstage. And when they got there, there's a buzz, there's electricity, they're excited and everything. And the first thing I said to them, I said, good evening, welcome, guys, welcome. The first thing I want to say is that we have no money. And then everybody went, oh. But then I said, if I had money, I don't know who I would pay in this room. I don't know if you wrote the script or somebody rewrote the script. I don't know if you directed the film or the editor saved your butt. I said, here's the deal. Um, I want to see who you are and if you really have talent. And, I have a certain standard. It's a high quality level. Come back in 3 weeks with a 5-minute scene. It has to be written by the writers in the room, directed by the directors that are in here today, and the actors that have showed up. Get to know each other. If you're serious about this, I'll see you in 3 weeks. And so 3 weeks came, and it was 450 people in the room. More people came. And then I said, who has scenes? Hands went up. And then I said, you know what? To do it the fair way, rather than like, you go first, you go second, you go third. I said, let's put the names of the scenes all into a brown paper bag, stir it up. Let's pull the names out, and that'll be the show order for tonight, and we will go forward. We put up 23, 24 scenes that night, and some of the scenes were okay, but then some of the scenes were absolutely brilliant. And out of that evening, I cherry picked the guy from UPS that says, hey, Mr. Townsend, I'm delivered the package. I want to be a director. He really was a director. The woman who says, oh, I want to be a writer. I used to be a stripper, and I think I could write, and I was just trying to make money for my kids. She really was a writer. So we cherry picked the nucleus that became the writers, the directors, the producers. I went to the city. Didn't have a lot of money. And I said, look, I need a bigger soundstage. I said, look, when I have my auditions, we're going to drive traffic to the economy in DeKalb County. And they gave me a building for 10 years for $1. and I had my auditions, and that it was a church. It was an old church, and we renovated the church, and the different prayer rooms became a sound stage, and the biggest sanctuary became our biggest sound stage, and the network did really really well, and we started to grow and all of that, and then other networks became interested in the network, and then the network eventually sold to the gospel music channel that became Aspire eventually. But for 4 years I worked my muscles as a executive of a network, and I had the best time. Now people don't know, because we were in Atlanta and we didn't have money to get the hype and everything going. But Janelle Monáe, her first time was on a kid show that we were doing there. All these different people all started there, and we were using everybody, but it was an adventure. So sometimes when people say, well, Robert, what are you working on? What kind of things? I took, 4 years to work my muscles as an executive, as a CEO to Green Light. So it was an amazing experience. So thank you for asking about it.
Well, I'm not done yet, because I want people to know that you not only were the head of the programming network, but you created morning shows, you created comedy shows.
What we did, I really ran a network. So I greenlit like 18 different series. So we went from Lisa Knight and the Round Table, a talk show for teenagers, to Partners in Crime, the next generation. And we had comedians, gave all these young comedians a half an hour special. And then one of our signature shows was Playhouse 22. And it was my version of, back in the day, Playhouse 90, the Twilight Zone. And based on all of those initial 5-minute scenes that we saw, we created a whole series, and those creatives got 5 minutes to do all of these really well written scenes, directed and acted. And so programming wise, yeah, I was blessed because I found all these talented people that one night, and that became the creators of the content for the network.
And we go to instinct, because as you're talking, I'm being reminded that you really trust your instinct. When you talk about God whispering in your ear, that you really honor that. A lot of creatives don't honor that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, well, I think everyone has instincts, but I think sometimes they don't listen. They don't listen to them. They don't trust them. So that if, it's like growing up in the hood, you walk down the street and you don't know the street, and then you see somebody over there, and then your instincts go left, and then go right, duck down this street, pause, stop. And especially when you live in the hood, you have to have heightened instincts, because you never know. It's like an animal in a jungle. You never know what's lurking around that corner, that bus stop, that alleyway. And you've got to go, oh, that doesn't feel right. Oh, back up, turn, And I think in show business, those that really get stuff done trust their instincts. I want to work with that person. I'm not going to work with that person. There's something, their energy is off. Oh, you're into energy? No, there's a certain thing where this is going to be a fun journey. This is not going to be a fun journey. And I think when you have quiet moments, or you pray, or you meditate, it allows you to hear. And then once you can hear what's going on, and then you can say, oh, that's what's happening. Oh, okay. I think a lot of times, uh, people don't trust their instincts. Like, I know I should not be working with this person. I know this is not the right project. I know. And instead of listening to that voice, they go, no, it's going to work out. I can make this executive really love me. This cast is going, and I've learned over the years, like, when it doesn't feel right, or I get that warning signal in my brain, warning, 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 Will Rogers, I listen. And I think a lot of people in this business don't listen.
I want to talk about your casting process. Another thing that separates you from other directors or other filmmakers is that you love doing open calls, and you love seeing hundreds and hundreds of people It is. It becomes a month of seeing people. What made you start to do that? Because that's part of your signature as a director. If you're doing a big movie, if you're doing a new TV show, you are not going for the traditional, have the casting director bring the top 5 people for each role and we'll keep it going. You're like, nope, I got to go here, I got to go there, I got to go here. And for those of you who are watching, if you watch Making the Five Heartbeats, you will know I am telling the truth. So, what gave you that impetus to like go, you know what? I want to see everybody.
Well, back when I was a kid watching those movies, I noticed those classic movies, everyone in it is great. Every face, everybody in the, like Elia Kazan is my favorite director. And they just had a screening, the 70th anniversary of On the Waterfront. And I got to be on the panel to discuss the film. And I had never seen it on the big screen. And as a kid, I remember watching it and loving it. And then when I saw it on the big screen, every one of the faces is so well cast. So for me, casting, I say this at USC to my students all the time, 90% of our job as directors is casting, and never settle. You keep looking and looking. And so when I do my open calls, basically I do it because I know there's a lot of great actors and actresses that don't have agents, don't have managers. And so when I do my open call, I get to see all these wonderful actors that have potential and they just need to be directed. They have wonderful instincts, they just need to be directed. So yeah, the casting director can send you the usual suspects and they go like, oh, everyone loves this person. I might not love them. I think the really great movies, the directors fight for who they believe in. Like, for example, The Godfather, you know, they didn't want Al Pacino. Francis Ford says, no, he's the one. And the studio, Robert Evans, they were fighting, no, not Al Pacino. No, not Marlon Brando. No. And sometimes you got to fight for your vision. And for me, everything I do, I like Baps. People really love Baps, and you know they talk about Robert. We have never seen Halle Berry as funny as you've made her in Baps, and her and Natalie. And when I had the cast, when we had casting for Baps, they had every actress, black actress working in Hollywood come in for the audition. But I didn't feel they were right. And my instinct, again, instinct, I go, no. And then they would come in and read with Hallie, and I didn't feel anything. I was like, there's nothing special going on. And Faison Love, we were hanging out, and Faison goes, Rob, there's a girl in my acting class who's really good. And maybe, I said, what has she done? And she goes, he hasn't done anything. And so I said, you know what? Have her come to your house and let me meet her. And I met Natalie at his house, and I liked her spirit right away. I felt her energy. And I did a 2-hour improv with her, and I was like, she's the one. She's the one. And then the next day I told the studio, and it goes, what has she done before? She hasn't done anything. It's like, Robert, come on, come on. And that afternoon, I was having callbacks with all the top actors and actresses on television. And so I told Natalie, come to the callback. And she showed up. And I was scouting locations that day. And I got there late because, once they give you a green light, everything goes really fast. You got to scout, you got to blah, blah, blah. And then I got to casting late. So I've got half the actresses from television and movies, black, the top A list, and Natalie. And Natalie's sitting there like, Robin, what am I doing here? All these people on TV, Robin, I don't know, Robin, I don't know. And I go, would you just be quiet? And, it's like, I don't know if I belong here. I don't know. I never done a movie before. And so to make a long story short, I bring in all the women to audition. And Hallie, she didn't read with anybody. The casting director read with everybody, and they would come in and do the thing. And we sat behind a table like, thank you, thank you, thank you. Then Natalie came in, And when Natalie came in, she goes like, "Hi y'all, how y'all doing? Oh, I'm so nervous." And then Hallie sprung up from her seat and she goes over and hugs Natalie, like, "Don't be nervous. I'll read with you. Give me the sides." And she grabbed the sides, and then the two of them are reading together. And all the executives and everybody's watching. And we see the magic. We see the chemistry. It's like, oh my God. And then Hallie goes, thank you. And then Hallie goes, "Thank you." And it's like that. And then Hallie goes, "It's her." And when we talk about casting, I will turn over every stone until I know I've cast what I feel right in my heart. And I think a lot of times people take the short route and they go like, yeah, he's been on a TV show. He's perfect to be in the show. And I was like, is there any chemistry? So for me, my process when I create whatever I create, movie, television show, I design it in a certain way that you have to watch it again. If I've done my job casting, you go like people love the Five Heartbeats, but like you said in the documentary, the making of the Five Heartbeats, you see my casting process. I saw close to 10,000 people. The little girl that I sing the song with, Tressa Thomas, she was in Chicago at the Regal Theater, number 500 and something, and I saw close to, and I saw 3,000 people that day. Tico came to the open call in New York City.
Before you go to Tico, Tressa, there was not a part for her when you saw her, right?
No, no. Part of the thing of having an open call is that it also opens up my creativity because then I start seeing people like, "Oh, he could be the waiter. Oh, this guy should be the waiter. Oh, she should be the boss at the place. Oh, she should be on the front row. She's one of the girls with cookie. Yeah, 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 yeah." And when I saw Tressa, it was this little girl that, said, "Mr. Townsend, can I sing for you?" And she goes, she has a little a boom box with her, and I could tell she's nervous. And I'm like, "Take your time, take your time. Okay, this little kid's gonna sing something for me. Oh, this is cute, this is cute." And then she starts, and I can see she's nervous, and I'm like, "Relax, relax." And then when she's saying, because first she was like, "Did you ever know that you're my hero? You're everything." And then she got warmed up and she goes, "Everything I need, and and then I was like, "Oh my God." She inspired me so much that I went back to the hotel that night and I said, "Oh, there's going to be a scene where Duck is trying to write a song and his little sister, and she'll be my little sister. And then we got to write a song for her. And then she blows us away and she helps Duck with the song. And it's funny and it's touching and da 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 da." So my open calls stimulates my brain as well, so I can, because and I'll cast other people in a little da 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 da, because now I'm seeing all these people and I can see who has the magic. And again, I'm trusting my instincts. But yeah, my process is very detailed. Even now, when I look at stuff, and something that I do too is that I don't know if a lot of directors do this, but I do it because I started out as an extra. And so I go into extras holding because all my productions are on time, on schedule, because I never waste any time. So once I walk and say, "This is going to be the shot with my cinematographer," either I'm in the hair and makeup trailer running lines with the actors, or I'm in extras holding talking about who's going to be sitting behind my stars, who's going to be on the left side of the right side, what tables. She's at the bar. "Oh, no, he should be the waiter. No, he's not the waiter in the scene. Okay, change him, change him. He's the waiter. He's the guy. Oh, he's the mafia. No, this guy should be next to him." So I go the extra mile because some directors just sit around and go, "Okay, first AD, second AD, show me what you got." I go into holding to make sure I know what I got, who's around them, because that guy doesn't look like a killer. And he goes like, "But I thought that's, the guy sitting in the back over there. He looks, get him the wardrobe right away. He's the killer. He's the one." And so people don't see that, but when you watch anything that I do, people feel there's an extra sauce. They just don't know what the extra sauce is.
Because of your beginnings, I think you also have a sensitivity for extras, a compassion for actors, because the truth is there are a lot of creative people out there, a lot of talented actors that may never get opportunities because they haven't been able to um, get into the room, or they haven't been able to network. One of my favorite stories is when we were prepping for In the Hive, and seeing people. A young lady out of Canada wrote you a letter and
Oh
asked
yeah.
to audition, and she came to LA on her own dime to audition, and now she's in like every Hallmark movie.
Yes,
She's in every
Allie. Allie.
Yeah,
Yes,
she's in
Allie.
every Hallmark movie. But what is wonderful about you as a director, as a filmmaker, is that when you are working on a project, you really do give everybody an opportunity. And there have been a few that I'm like, oh Lord, but you give everybody an opportunity. I remember we were casting for, you were looking for people for the Sammy Khan play that you were going to workshop,
Right.
and we were in the I think we were at Millennium, and this guy came in and he was so bad, and I thought I was gonna die of laughter. But you were like, nope, he is here, he's an artist. It is not, I am gonna respect that. And that really affected me because I had other ideas. I was like, thank you. Thank you. But you are really kind, you are considerate, and you are present with every actor that comes in the room. So I just want to put that out there. And
Thank
that's
you.
not for
Thank
you
you.
people to just be sending miscellaneous stuff, because we ain't doing that right now. But you are really good when it comes to seeing people. When you're doing a project, you are really good about everybody coming in and getting seen, and not everybody does that.
Well, I mean, the thing is that I do love actors. You're absolutely right. And starting out as an extra, doing extra work for 7 years, I remember when I was doing The Whiz, I was an extra in The Whiz, one of the citizens of Emerald City. And we were shooting at the World Trade Center for 7 days downtown. And it was a scene. Richard Pryor eventually showed up, and Diana Ross, and then Quincy Jones was playing the piano and all of that. And we were out there freezing. But while they were doing lighting setups, I was in extras holding, and there was like 300, 400 of us in there. And I would create talent shows. I mean, I was like, hey, y'all, while we're here, anybody want to do a monologue, sing a song, do something? And it was so many people in New York. And then, because I was working at the improv doing my stand up, and I would host a show, do my characters, do voices, and blah, 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 blah. And then somebody would sing. And it was all these people that now some are Broadway stars, but I was always looking. I don't know what was in me, but I was always looking, saying that these actors, even though you're an extra, you're an actor. So why not take, instead of just sitting in the room playing cards or chasing women or whatever people are doing, let's do a show. And there's so many people that I met that now are working in this industry because they were like, oh, but I just think that I try not to ever miss an opportunity, and casting is huge for me.
One last thing about casting, because now everything is self tape. Is that something that you're going to abide by, or you're still going to do your huge open calls when a project of that stature comes up?
Well, I love doing open calls because I like to see people. Because it's one thing to see somebody on video and do a self tape. You can kind of say, okay, they're that tall or whatever. And sometimes it's how they are lit or how they position themselves. And you go like, and then you see them in person, you go like, eh. So, but the only thing that I would say about self tapes is that for actors, this is the new way. This is the new way. So just make sure you give it your all, even in a self tape. Create the world, even in a self tape, because some people just go, it is da 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 on a self tape. Then there's others that they give energy and they go like, I'll be right back, Michael. What the hell is going on? Yeah, I guess that's why da 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 da. Hey, I'll have another drink, please. So, Amanda, you think they bring it alive? They use, like, back to New York when I had the video camera. We were figuring out different ways to slate our names, different ways to come into a scene. So I think with new technology, um, don't sleep on the self tapes. Just find a way to make it as unique as possible. Give it your all. If you got to wear the wardrobe, do your hair, do your makeup. Find people that can read off camera that are really better than you, as opposed to, yes, Michael, I know I love you so much, Michael. Thank you, honey. Sometimes, with actors, reach across the aisle. If there's somebody, because sometimes I know that there's people that they get insecure, and rather than say, hey, you're really a good actor, would you run lines with me? Hey, I saw you in class and you're really good. I need some help. Would you mind running, reading lines off camera for my self tape? All they can say is no, like no, no, or they can say yeah. And I think sometimes a lot of actors stay in their bubble, and so they don't reach out. And it's okay. You're working your muscle. You're working your muscle. Hey, would you like to work with me? Hey, can I work with you? Would you like to work with me? No, 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 no. Yes. Okay, then you start to collect your tribe.
When you are working with actors, once they've gotten the job, there are a couple of things that I notice you are real big on. First of all, you're big on breathing. You that is like breathe. If someone is nervous, you will stop everything, go breathe, breathe. And I thought about that. I don't know if you know this, but it's really spiritual. When you're telling somebody to breathe, you're really telling them take in God, because God gave us breath.
Yeah, I didn't. I've never looked at it like that. It's so funny. When I start directing, I go to a different place. I know I'm tapping into the God in me, but I just go to a different place and I'm just being guided. Like I'm working with Damon right now and I'm just being guided. Like we had a scene the other day and I
This is for
reblocked it.
Papa's house.
This is for Papa's house. And
Hmm.
so I had reblocked the scene. The day before, I rehearsed it a different way and then I reblocked it. And when I saw it the new way, Damon got emotional. He started wiping his eyes, and I got emotional because it was right. And we were both, and I was like in my voice, and I felt it in the whole group. Even Kim said afterwards, Kim Wayans, she was like, "Oh, I got touched by that." But I understood the blocking of the scene, and just that one little shift that I made. You go like, "Oh." So once I've cast and I'm on set with the actors, then I go into a sacred space, because now I've got to get the performance. And I call it painting with my fine brush. Painting with my fine brush. And that means everything is colored in, every little. Okay, how do you feel about your father? When was the last time you saw your father? Oh, what does it feel like to touch your father's hand after 5 years? So I get like that, and people are like, oh, and then it's like, okay, what is that? That's your favorite donut. What does it taste like? What is your favorite donut? And when you start, it goes like, well, like the scene with the actress that I'm working with now, she goes, chocolate. And then I say, you're tasting chocolate now. And then her whole performance changed because she tasted the chocolate and I saw it, and everybody was like, "Ooh," So for me, once we get into directing mode, and I've cast everything, now it is my job to make the world as real as possible. So then I'll go, no, the waiter shouldn't come now. The waiter should come later. Oh, can I get a woman here eating something so that while she's talking, she's going to look over at her because the woman is talking loud and smacking her food so that she's distracted and uncomfortable. She doesn't want to confront her father. So that's why she's looking over there. So I'll think of like everything, creating the world.
I thought of two things. because when you're directing film, that is that's a whole different process than when you're directing TV, because you have more time in film. You don't have as much time in TV. When you're directing film, you do a lot of rehearsals before you actually get the actors on set. But you don't have that time when you're doing TV because you're on a quick clock.
No, well, see, I'll disagree with you there because there's always time to direct. There's always time to rehearse. There's always time to rehearse. What people don't understand is that you have to find those moments. So, for example, if I'm doing a big, large scene in a ballroom and the cinematographer says, oh, it's going to take me almost an hour and a half to light, that's my rehearsal time. Where's the actor? Where? Because they're usually in the trailer going like, "Did you see the thing yesterday that they on social media? Oh my God!" You know, and I'm like, "Let's rehearse." So even directing is directing. So there is no difference. You know, sitcom, we don't have to go outside, so I'm not fighting for, I got to get out of this location. We got to get out here. We got a company move. We're all there. So, but it's still mind. Okay, how do I get the performance? Okay, slow. And while they're doing that, hey, let's run these lines. Let's run these lines. Let's talk to the bill. I don't need to be on set. Let them light over there. Okay, you're going to go to the bar. You're going to come back over here. With movies, it's still the same. It's just a different muscle. It's just a different muscle because you got to move faster. You got to move faster because I only have this location for one day. We only have the grocery store for 3 hours, 6 hours. We got to get out of here and then move to the funeral parlor. So we got that for 6 hours. So it's just my team getting the stuff. But when they start lighting, and I go grab the actors, I start rehearsing. Other directors don't do that. You know, for me, like I did the season finale for Force, you know, the 50 Cent Power universe. And a lot of the actors were saying, Rob, man, we never rehearse with the other directors. We rehearse with you because I'm like, I want you up to speed.
But you get that a lot when you do television directing. I mean, that's something that actors always say to you, that they
Yeah,
don't.
well, you know, because I never work on other directors' sets, you know, because we're like by ourselves. I never know what other directors do. For me, I'm like that fine brush again. Okay, you're gonna come in here, you're gonna walk past four extras. When you walk past them, one of them you don't like. And even though you're talking about coffee, just have a little look in your eye when you see him. So I'm constantly coloring. And then I don't have to be on the set. I'm like rehearsing outside. Okay, remember you're at this table, look over to the bar. I bring all the extras in an alley. Or I may say, let's rehearse in extras holding. Hey, everybody turn your radios off, turn your phones off. I need the space for rehearsal. Okay, pull the table over here. And so I'm always rehearsing. And there's always time. It's just I could be on my phone and just waiting.
You're managing not just the budget but also the time of the production, because you're really good at
Yes.
bringing stuff under the deadline and under budget.
You know, one of the things that I pride myself on, because you talk about being a hyphen, I'm also a producer. So I know what everything costs and what is going to cost me time. So I'm always, you know, I think sometimes I frustrate my first ADs because I'm so thorough. I'm like, okay, where's the food? Okay, how far is the food? If because I need four takes of this. Where are the other sandwiches at? Oh, they're at the truck, which is a 5 minute walk. Bring them here. Oh, but Robert, you don't know. Bring them here. Bring them here. Okay, she's got the scene, and then we're gonna do the second scene in the bedroom. Is her wardrobe here? Is her wardrobe here? Oh, we still got it at base camp. Oh, no, 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 no. Bring it here. But wait, but we might not get to that scene. I'm gonna be moving fast today. So I my brain is wired differently, so I'm thinking through visual effects, sound effects, special effects. Okay, we're going to shoot up the whole wall. How long is it going to take to reset the wall? Okay, so while we're doing that, I'm going to shoot his close up over here. Okay, Let me know when you're ready. So it's just kind of managing it. But I think real directors, our brains are wired differently where we can juggle a lot of balls and not get thrown off. So for me, I always rehearse. I don't care what show. Like even now, doing Damon's show, Papa's House, while Don Morgan, the cinematographer, is lighting the set and whatever. I'm like, let's run lines. Let's go in the hallway. Let's run lines. Let's go over here and run lines. And then Damon sometimes he goes, Rob, you working me, man. I go, I want the show to be special. I want the show to really be special. And
He should
you know,
remember. He should remember that you work him. He should
yeah.
remember from back in the day when he had to ride his bicycle to meet you at a comedy club on one side of town, and then ride his bicycle to the other side
I
of town to
know.
meet you. He should
I
remember
know.
this. There, one other thing that you do as a director with your cast is you like to bring in music while you're prepping with them to give them a piece of music to work off of.
Uh, Here's what I will, like for example, I played, I don't know, I created my own games. And so I do a thing where I called relationship rewind. And I will basically, like I've done this several times. I did it when I did Love Is. I used a song. I did it on Love Is. I did it on Kaleidoscope with Giancarlo, but I will have them in 5 minutes while I play a song, talk them through an entire relationship. And it's like the first time you met, the first time da 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 da, and then the dance. You guys are at a dance. You're at the movies, and you're watching a movie, and you eating popcorn, and you look at each other's eyes, and you know it's love. You're calling her, she won't answer, and they're improvising, and then we do that for 5 minutes, 6 minutes, and then I go, let's go to the set, let's shoot. Now they have had a relationship, and that takes me maybe 10 minutes, 15 minutes, but everybody's got to be willing to play and they get excited. So like in Kaleidoscope, there's a whole chunk with Giancarlo and his wife, and there's a twist that happens, and we did that right before we did the scene. And the scenes, you feel like they have been together, for a lifetime. I'm going to probably do that with the new episode that I'm directing for Papa's House as well.
I want to end this chunk of you talking about your process as a director, but I want to ask two questions. The first one is, when you are directing as you, the filmmaker, doing your indie film, and then you, the director, when you are being hired by a studio, what are the differences for you, and how do you have to navigate through both processes because they're both different?
Well, the real difference is that when I'm directing and creating my own stuff, I don't have to check in with anybody, and so I have to factor in about an additional hour for executives and people to weigh in, where that's the only difference. And it's not really a lot of time because I know what the script is, and in television, there's a thing called getting making sure you got the right tone. You have tone meetings. What is the tone of Force? What is the tone of Papa's House? What is the tone of Best Man? And so once I know what the tone is, and I get the performance, and that's a skill set. You got to know how to be funny, how to be dramatic, where's the joke, where's the drama, how do you build up the punch. I understand the tone. So when I do what I do, then everybody at Video Village, all the executives and producers go, keep moving. When it's my own indie stuff, I know what the tone is because I wrote it, I created it. So I just, it's just like, okay, we got it, moving on. As opposed to, I love it. What do you guys think? Moving on. That's all.
I want to get to Robert the actor because that's where everything started from for you. It was your acting. Your acting opened you up to improv at Second City, that opened you up to stand up comedy, that opened you up to being a filmmaker. Who are the teachers that you had that influenced you as an actor that you still use what they taught you?
Wow. All right. So if I was to say who influenced me, I would start at X Bag with Clarence Taylor, who first took me through acting exercises and warm ups and everything every time. So that's always in my body. Then that would I would go to Paymoon Rami and Masakwa, his wife, because they were teaching the basics of emotion and laughter and just understanding the rhythm. When I got to New York, oh, while still in Chicago, Joe Forestberg, improv. She was Bill Murray's improv teacher, and she taught me the basics of improv: never deny, and da 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 da, listen, feed, build. When I got to New York, it was Anderson Johnson at the Negro Ensemble Company, and he was about the texts and the words and period pieces. Then it was Stella Adler, and Stella was always her stuff was about being real and honest. I was doing a scene in her class from Julius Caesar, and we were supposed to kill him. And it's like all the daggers, and everybody was doing like, And then one student had bought a real sword to class. All the swords were cardboard or plastic or whatever, like, and this dumb ass bought a real sword. And so she was like, "Oh, we can't use that," and he put it to the side. And so we were like, the daggers and everything. And so the scene was just not good. We thought it was good, but it wasn't. And she was like, What are you doing? What are you doing? Is this a soap opera? What is this?" And she went and got the sword, and it was like right over there. And she came back, and we were all, and the way she held it in her hand, it was like this heavy metal. And then the actor playing, Caesar, was standing there, and she goes, "If you're going to kill him, kill him." And she raised the sword, and everybody in class was like, "Oh," But from that one moment, anytime as an actor, but also as a director, if you're going to go there, then really kill him, really kill him. So for me,
But
um,
actors, please don't bring real weapons to the set or to the class.
yeah, no, but so all of them, and now Ivana Chubbuck, learning from her substitution and just being able to get on the frequency, and she paints with a fine brush. So for me, she, because I'm seeing everything, but then she sees more, and then you go like, oh, so he's thinking about that when he sees her. Oh, I thought that. Oh, we can build on that. Oh, and it's kind of like creating a full emotional life, and for me, like right now, I'm doing the one man show, but I started workshopping the one man show in her class. And I would go in there, and it was kind of like being naked, like as an artist, because you're kind of exposing yourself and who you are and what you want and what you're saying. And I couldn't do it in a comedy club because it's comedy, but then it's not. People would go like, "Wait, this is."
Well, you did try to workshop it in comedy clubs, but it wasn't the appropriate place. What I will say about you, Robert Townsend, is you are so courageous and so bold, and you went where you had to go. I mean, you went to the comedy clubs. You did the bits at the comedy clubs.
Yeah.
You were okay. Well, if this is where I am, I'm doing it. But the bigger courage to me is that because you were already an established actor, you were already established in your career, to say, you know what, I'm going to go to get coached by the best of the best,
Yes.
and to be willing to allow them to speak into you. Not everybody, they have their shtick, they know what they do, they don't want, I'm good, don't touch me. But to say, no, I'm an actor, I want somebody to sharpen me and bring me up. I love that. I
Well,
applaud
well,
you, Robert Townsend.
the thing is that that's another muscle, and I always want to be the best that I can be. And if someone can tweak you, because it's one thing to say, "Oh, I got it," and then I'm like a kid. I'm like, "Well, what about?" And it's like Ivana just knows how to get in there. Like recently, I reached out to her when I saw Pamela Anderson's work in The Last Showgirl, because I was watching the movie. I vote for the Academy, so I'm watching the movie and I'm like, wow, this is a really special performance. Oh my God! So I've worked with a lot of acting teachers, and recently I've been working with Ivana Chubbuck, and she's been working with me on The Bear, and before the limited series I did for Apple with Billy Crystal, and she goes in there really deep. So when I saw Pamela Anderson in The Last Showgirl, I loved her work, and then when she got nominated for the Golden Globe, she says, "Oh, I want to thank Ivana Chubbuck," and I hadn't talked to Ivana, because I've been, directing, and then I called her because I knew Pamela Anderson's work was different and really special, and she had that touch. And so for me, I think a lot of times uh, artists go like, well, I understand acting, I know everything, and I don't need anybody to talk to me or whatever. But I think the really great actors, they know that, yes, I have an instrument, yes, I do understand acting, I do understand the beats, but there might be some nuances that with my fine brush I may miss, and she may go, you got this, but what about that one right there? Oh, yes. And then I go, oh, so it's a beautiful dance. And so for me, Ivana, like I said, I got to workshop my one man show in her class, and it was priceless because I got to, put it on its feet, try things. And, the show is very personal. So there's certain moments that I go like, oh, do I want to talk about this? But I think um, to share my journey as a man, I think I know will be beneficial to other artists, male and female, to say, oh, that's what he went through. But you need to be in a safe space that you can create. So for me, I all my acting teachers have given me certain things, and I love that part of my being. I love being a performer. Like even when I'm directing, people are like laughing and having a great time. And when I demonstrate for the actors, they go like, like that was really good. And then it's kind of like they don't know, like these young actors don't know the full history. And then those that do know, they go, woo.
I think that's because you kind of went underground for a bunch of years and just was you were directing. You were
Yes, yes,
you were
yes.
being a beast about just directing, 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 directing. And a new generation came along and didn't know Robert Townsend the actor or Robert
Yeah,
Townsend the comedian. A lot of people didn't even know you were a comedian, that you
yeah.
really were funny.
Yeah.
They
Well, I
didn't
mean,
know.
it's so funny because we had the screening of Hollywood Shuffle at Vidiot's, and as I was being interviewed and talking, I was sharing my stories, and different people had come out, to see the movie, and they said, okay, let me see what Robert's talking about, and then I was just having fun, being silly and just jokes and da 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 da, and after it was over with, people were coming up and going like, I didn't know you were that funny. And because I love directing, I love writing, I love producing, uh, I had just kind of go like, oh, I'm just going to be a director now and just be a director. But then the side of me, like now with the one man show, I am having the best time just being an actor, just one hat, and then just embodying all that it has to offer. So I love it. I love it.
Talking about hats, because you wear so many hats, and sometimes you wear a lot of hats on one project. How do you take off your director's hat to get in front of the camera and put on your actor's hat? Because that's an art form in itself.
Yes, thank you, thank you. What I would say is this: my brain is wired very different. It's just how I'm wired. Where I started out as a stand-up comedian. When you are a stand-up, you are writing your material, you are directing yourself. You go, this joke goes here, this joke goes here, and I'm going to end with that. That is directing yourself. You are writing the material, and then you know where the laugh is, where the da 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 da. So for me, when I go from writing phase, I go, oh, this is funny. This is gonna be funny. This is gonna be funny. Then I go into directing phase. Okay, I need these extras here. I need this and this and this. And then when I get into the actor phase, I know where everything is. So I know the world around me. Okay, there's the world. Okay, I created everything. Okay, now let's just play. Like, let's just play. I've written Living the Shuffle. We've rewritten it. We've gone through it. We've gone through it. I've gone through my movement patterns. I've gone through my blocking. I've worked on my characters. Now, just play. Just play. You release and you play. And like I said, my brain is wired really different. Like it's what's what's really interesting is that I can see movies with first time directors and go, oh yeah, they're a first time director. Yeah, they've got a ways to go. For me, I've always gobbled up everything. I'm going to write it or co-write it. I'm going to produce it. I'm going to direct it, and I'm going to star in it. And because I'm wired in such a way, the movies that I have, like sometimes people see the five heartbeats and they're like, they don't know that I'm on the other side of the camera too. They just go like, who directed this movie? And it's like, I'm in front, back, Meteor Man, in front, back, side, side. I think there's certain people like George Clooney has it where he can be in and he can be out. Clint Eastwood has always done it and done it well. He can be in, he can be out.
Robert Redford,
Robert Redford, he can be in it and he can be out.
Ben Affleck.
Yeah, it's a different muscle that you got to have, and you understand it. Like I can see the whole world. Like right now when I'm just directing, it's funny to me because I'm not using a lot of my muscles, so I'm just kind of like, and everybody's like, "Wow, he's the best director we've had, man. He's really, really good." And because I'm using probably like that much, because I'm used to, okay, now I go in, then I come out, then I go, okay, I'm up. And so when it's just one hat, I understand it, and then I'm like, okay, our days are early. I just but I love all the, I love wearing all the hats, and I've missed the hat that's a performer. I mean, because I'm always performing, I'm always making people laugh, being silly, but then now committing to the one man show and just having fun with it. Oh my God! So yeah, so yes.
And again, I will stress that the one man show, Living the Shuffle, is a testament of your character. We learned so much about you through the show, but it's also very inspiring. If I were a young actor starting out and I saw this show, I would run to start to do something. It would fire me up to go, okay, I got to do my own project. And I think that is what you bring in your being, to inspire people to do their own stuff. You leave people wanting to be better, to do their own stuff. And I was thinking about your friendship with Keenan Ivory Wayans, and also your collaboration with him, because here was somebody you met early on in your journey, and the two of you clicked and started working together, and then were able to, throughout the years, create incredible content. Hollywood Shuffle, The Five Heartbeats, and just being able, Partners in Crime, being able to just kind of volley the ball back and forth. You talked earlier about how you guys work and is topping each other. Okay, let's make it better. Let's make it better. Let's make it better. There is something to be said about great collaboration. Everybody doesn't know how to do that. What do you think some of the ingredients are in your collaboration with Keenan?
I think there is a mutual respect. There is a love. There's a kindness, because we battle, but you know, we would battle over the. "Hey, why would he say the house? It would just be stupid stuff, and we would get into big fights. We would fight over nothing, but here's the thing, Keenan, we were talking about this the other day. We brought out the best in each other, where Keenan would, and we're like, it's like the odd couple, because Keenan would be doing push-ups, he would be shaking his foot, he'd be biting his nails. I got the legal pad, I'm writing everything down. I'm really organized. I want to start. If we're gonna say 7 o'clock, we start at 7 o'clock. Keenan gets there, 7:16, and I'm pissed. But at a certain point, I realized that we worked differently. Like Keenan doing push-ups allows him to get to a joke or get to a story point or a character arc. And for me, I just start seeing the world. And so when we would work together, it was magical, and yeah, we fought, and then I get so mad at him, and then he go, and because Keenan can cook, he cooked for his 10 brothers and sisters. Then I get mad, and then Keenan goes, "Rob, you want something to eat?" "Yeah, man. Yeah, yeah. Okay, we'll eat. We'll eat. I don't want to talk to you ever again." And that Negro knew that food, he was like, "Man, you want fried chicken?" "Yes, I do." But I'm telling you, he should say and then sometimes, and then we would surrender, like, "Nah, Key, you're right. That joke does work better." Or Rob, "Yeah, man, yeah, I see what you're saying." Or, sometimes because I had to, have somebody type it up, then I would rewrite the shit when he didn't know. And then here's the script. And I put all the shit in that I wanted anyway. I was like, but the thing that I would say is that it's a real friendship. We were talking the other day, and we met when we were both auditioning for the improv, and we were on the same line, and two brothers online and talking, and I just remember Keenan. He took me to the Chelsea projects, and his family, they were in a 4-bedroom apartment. And I went in there and I saw little Marlon, little Sean, I saw Kim, and, all the babies. And Keenan was like, "I got to make it because I'm going to get my family out of here. I got to be famous. I got to, And we would walk from the improv on 44th and 9th Avenue to Pearl's Place on 69th Street on the east side, walking through Central Park, just talking about our dreams. And then, like now being on set, for Papa's House, it's like we were having a moment like, oh my God, we won. We climbed the mountain of Hollywood and we won, and we continue to win. But I just think that he's probably, I know, we created classics together, and he was the first, one of the first people to believe in me. But there is a frequency where it's just he's a lovely man, and he sees me as a lovely man, and we just work together, and there's a yin and a yang.
Well, the two of you have changed the landscape of Hollywood, not just for Black artists, but for all artists who have that renegade spirit, who are saying, "I'm not going to wait for the phone to ring. I'm not going to wait for my agent. What can I do?" Living Color opened the doors not just for Black artists, but all artists.
Let me say this to you, the journey connects with you on a whole nother frequency because you were there behind the scenes every step of the way. I think, let me give you, like when we were doing Hollywood Shuffle, I think one of the things that really made people show up and got people coming back constantly was your craft service and your cooking.
Well, we didn't have money. There was no money. So it was like, okay, what can we do with $200 to feed 15 people, 16 people all day? Because it was breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Yeah, but let me say this. It was better than some of the craft service on the real big productions. You had chicken, you had the rice, the pasta. You were making like really people would show up because they couldn't wait to have lunch. It was, and I say this to my students at USC all the time. I said, because they're like, well, we're just going to have crackers and we're going to have, I said, no, 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 no. You have to feed people, and you made $200 go for a week. You were figuring it out, and it was. I mean, here's the thing. I learned in that moment how important food was because you would go and say, I'm going to go to Costco or I'm going to go to, and you knew how to extend the money so that when people went to craft service, they felt like they were on A-list major production because we didn't skimp and you figured it out. You said, I could do this, I could do that, I could do this, I could do that. And I don't know how you did it, but I just remember that it boosted morale because people were eating and people were full and we could play, and then they go back and there would be more, and then you would restock it and replay. And I don't know how you did it, but that was a secret sauce, an added bonus, because nobody was like, man, we ain't getting paid and there ain't nothing to eat and da da da. We always had more, and you would
Well,
always say,
take
take it
them
home.
home. Take them home.
Take
Make
them
them
home.
plates. Well, one of the things I think as an actor struggling in LA was, you I have $5. I can get gas or I can get food. And if you had an audition, you were going to get the gas. So you weren't going to have you weren't going to have food to eat that day. So for me, when we were working on Hollywood Shuffle, I kept thinking about, okay, a lot of these actors are not eating well. Can we feed them? That
Ah,
at least they have a full belly, and people, when you take care of them belly wise, something I learned from my mom when I was a kid, I'll never forget that. She said, people will offer you drugs and drinks, but very few people will offer you a plate of food. And that always stuck with me. And to
mm,
this day, if you come to my house, you're going to eat. I mean, I'm going to feed you. And so that was just an extension of me saying, okay, we got all these people coming. We're going to have them all day long because you made a lot with a little. You were like, okay, we only got this amount of time with the cameras and the lights, and we're shooting all of this stuff. And so that
yeah,
meant it was an all day, Saturday, Sunday thing because people were working during the week. So we only had Saturday and Sunday to shoot. And
yes,
so it was like, make sure they're eating. Let's feed those. Let's feed them. Come on. So to me, I took that serious. That was important for me to make sure. Okay, because if they're not happy, you're not going to have a project. So
right,
yeah.
right.
And I think for anybody who's doing independent films, when I talk to them, I always say, make sure you got somebody who's cooking really well, and you got a lot of food because they're not going to get money. What are they getting out of this? They may get footage if you
Comes
finish
out.
it, but they at least know they got fed and they got to work on their craft. Those are the two big things. They got fed, they got to work on their craft, they got to say to somebody, oh yeah, I'm working on this thing. So in that sense, that was really important for me. And I wanted to say something about the end of Hollywood Shuffle when it was all said and done, and you got Samuel Goldwyn to buy the thing, the film. The thing that I remember, and I still remember it, when you were living on Windsor. It was a Sunday, and every cast member came and got paid. And I remember the excitement, uh, because nobody thought that was going to ever happen. But and to have somebody from, I don't know if it was from Samuel Goldwyn's company, but I remember there was like a white person like writing
Yeah.
out the checks. We had a list, and they were getting.
It was Norman Flicker. The man's name was Norman Flicker. No, that was a highlight for me as well because here we had done this movie, and I said, when the movie is going to be sold, you guys will get paid first. I will not get paid first. You will. And once Samuel Goldwyn saw the film, Sam Goldwyn Jr., Keenan and I screened it for him. And then once he says, "Oh, I want to buy the film. This is I want to do it." And so, and I was because I had finished the film with credit cards. I had all those credit card bills coming in, and I was like, "Hey, can I get my money really fast to pay off these credit cards?" But also, I said the first people I want to pay are the actors because they did it for free. And I had to go to SAG to talk to Ann Talltree because she says, "How many actors are we talking about? Because you can't work in front of the camera without a union contract." And I said, "Well, because we're people of color, there's no roles for us." And I was trying to do something. And she says, "How many actors are we talking about?" And I remember it was like 83. 83, 84. She was like, "What?" I said, "What's a little indie film?" And then she was like, "Wow." And then she says, "Okay, we will give you the waiver." I said, "We're just trying to do something positive." And then that Sunday, Norman Flicker came because he was the money man at Goldwyn. And I said, "I just want to make sure these actors get paid." And he goes, "We signed a deal on Thursday." And he says, "Oh, we can't do it on Friday." And I said, "Can we do it on Sunday?" And then everybody came, and I just remember that was one of the highest moments in my life because I had, sold everybody this movie, and then there they were getting their checks on a Sunday. And then since that time, everybody still gets a piece of the movie because they all have a piece of a point or whatever it is. And through the years, they still get their checks. Every now and then they get their checks.
We still get paid. I want to talk a little bit about indie projects because you are the king of indie projects, and I think I would be remiss if we didn't talk about it. We've done a lot of indie projects, from In the Hive, the first Black dramatic web series, a single mom, a Diary of a Single Mom, first Latino dramatic web series that Dennis Leone directed, but you produced and he wrote, called Los Americans, as well as Playing for Love. We've done a lot of indie projects. And a lot of it is because you had a vision and you said, let's go. We didn't have the money. We didn't have, but it was like, let's go. So I want to stop the car here at Making the Five Heartbeats, because that was your passion project. That was something you really wanted to do. And we would start working on it. We would lose editors. Then we would stop. Then we would go back and we would stop. And it took about 12 years to actually get that documentary made. And when we finally got to it, the young lady who edited the project had to take all these editors' edits and figure it out, because when we started, technology was in one place, and when we ended it, technology was in another place. And then we had
Yes.
to figure out, oh my God, we don't have the software for that anymore. We had to go find somebody who we could add. Reginald Darcy, God bless him, was able to find you a place where we could go and get the footage transferred. And
Right.
she put it together. She did. Her name is Bethany Fanthorpe. Let me give her proper name, Bethany Fanthorpe, and she did such an outstanding job. But from that, what I learned was, because it was just you and
Yes.
I was so determined we were going to get an award, that I was like, I'm going to take a page from the Robert Townsend workbook. And I went to the academy and I was calling them every day to find, okay, we want to put this up for consideration. And we got on the list. We didn't make the final, but we got on the list. We were able to do so much with a little. And then calling up the Image Award people and saying, so what do you have to do to get nominated, and what do you need? And I said, and I was like, and how many people do you have that are voting? And the woman was like, well, we have about 17. I said, how many people do you have on your list that are part of the Image Award? She said 300. I said, I'm bringing you 300 DVDs tomorrow. And then we find out that you have to screen the movie for 7 days in a real movie theater. And then we're watching all these campaigns going on. And at the time, we were up against Quincy Jones's documentary, Whitney Houston's documentary, Aretha Franklin's documentary, and RBG's documentary. And I'm like, we're gonna get something here. And we didn't have the budget. We didn't have the budget to compete with all these documentaries where they were whining and dining people. You talk about food. They had layouts. Quincy Jones even brought everybody to his house. I was like, that's some cold-blooded stuff. But what we did have was tenacity, determination, and resourcefulness. And at the end of the day, Robert Townsend got that film nominated with the Image Awards, because I was not giving up. I was like, oh no, and we took it to New York. And you talk about cooking, when we had the press come, I cooked all the food. I was like, well, we're going back to the Hollywood Shuffle days. Let's lay it all out, make these people happy. You are a testament of, we're going to do this. And don't ask the how so much, ask the why we need to do this, because then the how shows up.
Yes. I mean, well, let me say this. You are the secret sauce. You really are. I mean, sometimes I know in our years, I've made you crazy, crazy, but you are the secret sauce, because I am part madman. I am. I mean, yes, yes, because let me say this to all the creatives watching this right now. The mantra is any and everything is possible, but you've got to be willing to walk by faith. Know that it's going to come together, but you got to trust. And when you were talking about the creation of Making the Five Heartbeats, when it initially started, I didn't know what it was. And sometimes it's cooking in my brain where I think, oh, I want to do this. And then I was like, I don't know if that's right. And year goes by, another year goes by. And then when I saw the kid stays in the picture, the Robert Evans documentary, then that's when it started to really crystallize in my brain and go, that's what we're doing. And what I think a lot of times, every step of the way, nothing is ever lost. It is just that we have to sit with it for a minute, because I didn't, if the documentary would have came out 12 years ago, it wouldn't have been the same documentary. I had to like sit with it, live with it, tussle with it, fight with it. And then all of a sudden it starts to crystallize. But again, I have to say this, you got to have people on the team that believe. And I think we talk about Keenan, but you and I have that same kind of you know chemistry where we
We
know how
fight.
to get it done. We fight.
But that
We fight.
that the has to go in there, Robert.
No, it's the same thing, but the thing is that it's like there's a trust, there's a mutual trust, a mutual respect, and it's kind of like you've always been the secret sauce. Like I said, I take nothing lightly. The fact that people ate good on Hollywood Shuffle brought them back, even if they didn't have a good time filming with me. They were like, "This food is so good, I'm gonna get me 2 plates. I don't care. I just remember you because you did the chicken and you did the rice and you did and you always had something special."
You're feeding a lot of people. What is cheap that goes a long way? And so pasta expands, it goes a long way. Rice expands, it goes a long way. The bread expands, it goes a long way. So, and chicken back then you could get a big old bag and make it go a long way. So it was always about it's it's what our mothers did. It's what our
Mm,
mothers did with the little bit of money they had to feed all the kids, right? Your mother had 4 kids, my mother had 6. My mother was on welfare, your mother worked at the post office. And it was like, how do you stretch that dollar? And I just remember as a little kid, like my mother sold food on the street in the summertime to make money to pay for our tuition at Catholic school. So as a
wow.
kid, she would make me go to the wholesales food shops to get like a big box of pigtails or a big box of yams. Then she would cut it up and fry it. She'd fry the foods and sell it up, codfish fritters and stuff like that. So as a kid, I was aware of what you could do with a little because she would start out with $50. And from that $50, then she would buy whatever could be bought for $50, sell that, get money, and then again turn it over and buy stuff. And she was saving money for tuition but still reinvesting in the
Wow.
food stuff. So I was 11, 12 years old having to help her. I've been a slave for a long time. Robert.
Oh my God. Oh my
but
God. Oh my
but
God.
I believed in my mother. I believe in you. I believe that, when you say we're doing something, I, I'm always, let's go. Let's go. My thing with you sometimes is we're not ready yet to leave the train station. But when you start that train, there's no stopping. We're on it. We've never, the wonderful thing about you is that when you say we're starting, we are starting. We are going through it. And somehow God always comes through. He always provides. We we may be challenged, and for those listening, production is not for the faint hearted. There are all kinds of stuff that comes up, but you have to keep going, and that's a testament to you to say, no, we're going to get it done. We're going to get it done. We've never abandoned a project. A project has
No,
never been
no.
abandoned. No one can say Robert Townsend has not completed. He started this project and he didn't complete it. He's got 5. How many artists do we know that have started projects and they're still in the garage?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, well, I don't know. That's in my DNA. Anything I start, I finish. And I'm not looking at finishing it like, oh, we got across the finish line. It's got to be great. Everything. I mean, the highest compliment for me is that when we released "Making the Five Heartbeats," and when people saw it, some people said, "This is as good as the movie. This is so good," and that's because I don't want anything, especially because I was revisiting the Five Heartbeats, and it's like, the Five Heartbeats lives in its own universe. But to do a documentary, and again, You know, when people think about resources and what have you, it's really all in here. Creativity is there. It's like there's a way. There's always a way to figure it out. There's always a way to figure it out. So thank you,
Well,
thank
it's
you, thank
also the rewrites, right? On that documentary, that you did a lot of rewrites and a lot of re-edits, a lot of edits, a lot of edits. So it wasn't like you and, oh, I'm gonna do this and then that's it. No, you really did the process. I think young creatives need to understand that you rewrite and rewrite and rewrite and rewrite and rewrite until you get it. Living the Shuffle, your one man show, constant rewrites, rewrites, rewrites. Your scripts, every time you're writing the last script we worked on, it was 4 years of rewrites. And
you. Yes,
so that, maybe even a little bit longer, but the lie in Hollywood is that things get made like this. They just poof, there you go. You know, this person is a superstar, and you never see their hard work. You just, they appear, they're a star. You don't know their beginnings. And I wanted to do this interview because people know Robert Townsend, the filmmaker, but they don't know the real journey. They don't know the days you couldn't eat. You know, my favorite
yes,
story,
yes.
and we always laugh about this, is you being in a boarding house in New York and not having food and raiding the kitchen late at night and having somebody, having the person like catch you. But
Oh, shut up! This interview is over with now. It's over. It's over. That's the last word. Done. I'm done. I'm done.
but
You will not bring up my shame.
But that's the thing, I think of early on me being in Los Angeles with a couple of acting friends, and we would go to Sizzler. We would chip in our money, go to Sizzler. One person would get the plate, and then we would sit down. And when the person was finished, the other person would take that plate, go back to the salad bar and get it. And so, when you are scrappy, you are thinking of, I got to keep going. How do I feed myself? How do I get myself? I'm doing these temp jobs. I'm doing this day job, but I am focused on my career. And I love that you talked about having temp jobs, because so many people out there today, they just want to be a star. When we take in interns, sometimes they think that they're coming in to work for us and you're going to give them a movie, and they don't
Right.
even know, they don't have a complete scene. And then they get mad when I say, well, you got to do the work. But I got this script. No, you just did a draft. You got to do the rewrite and the rewrite and the rewrite. It takes work. It takes tenacity. It takes dedication. And it takes a group of people who move you forward. You and Keenan irony, you guys sharpen each other, and
Yes, ma'am.
in a good way. Yes, there's fighting, but the encouragement has to be there, that you could share with. You have to have that person that you can share your dream with, and they're sharing their dream with, and you're like, let's go, let's take the mountain, we can do this. And I'll end it here. Taking the mountain, that is what you do every day. And I in the show, Living the Shuffle, you talk about climbing Kilimanjaro. And to people who are hearing this, what you don't understand is Robert did not train for the climb. He did not have the proper equipment. He was not prepared, but he had a vision that he was going to climb the mountain.
I'm not going to talk about the climb. You got to see the show. I'm just going to leave it there. It is lessons that I learned from climbing the tallest mountain in Africa. And Lydia, I just want to say this has been one of the best interviews I've ever done. Thank you.
Well, okay then. I'll make
Thank
you a
you.
plate of
Thank
food for
you.
that.
No, all jokes aside, I love your process because sometimes when people are asking me questions about my career, they never take time to delve into the real creative, because everyone thinks it's just, like boop, 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 boop. And then when you really, now we've worked together for years, and so, I, I call it moving mountains. It's like, we're going to get it done. And I feel blessed that we have been able to work together all of these years and create quality work. But there's extra sauce that people don't know about. And I think in this interview, you've pulled things out of me that kind of, let people in on the special sauce that is needed, the extra mile that we go to create, whether it's casting or writing or directing or acting, so that if you really want this career or to be in show business, through this interview, you've kind of demystified it to say it's all about the work, it's all about the craft. And if you love the craft, you will succeed, you will win.
It's about the work, it's about the craft, it's about the discipline, it's also and the networking, but it's also about respecting other creatives. And that's what you bring. You respect their process, you respect their creativity, and you celebrate them. So I celebrate you, Robert Townsend.
Thank
I
you.
thank you so much. I just thank you for being an example. And, the Bible talks about if you speak to the mountain and you say move and you believe it, it will be done. And that's you. That's you. You speak to the mountain. Your mindset, your talk, your faith, and your works say it all. So thank you. Wasn't that amazing? And yes, I did cook all the food for Hollywood Shuffle. Yes, I did. I did it. Yes, yes, yes. I would love to know what your thoughts are in the comments. And while you're there, please, 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 please buy me a coffee. I would love a latte. Don't go anywhere because coming up is Blair Underwood, who spills the tea on what it takes to be a successful actor in Hollywood right now.